Nothing's changed other than the perception that this is more likely to become an open convention than we thought before.
Next on Newsmax Prime, the current speaker schemes along with others in the GOP establishment. A former speaker warns those Washington insiders against such scheming. And Dick Morris analyzes this Republican rift. Also ahead, when you hear Hillary describe our southern border, you'll wonder what planet she's on. And if you're wondering how to best fill out your tax form, the tax mama has some advice on how to do it right. Newsmax Prime starts right now. Good evening and welcome to the Friday night edition of Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest tonight, speaking out. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich has a warning for Washington's Republican establishment.
If they want to form the let's elect Hillary Clinton club, fine. But they ought to be honest about it. Any effort to help anybody but the Republican nominee helps Hillary Clinton. And if you think giving Hillary Clinton the Supreme Court, having Hillary Clinton run our foreign policy, having Hillary Clinton support the unions to continue ruining our children in schools, if you think that's acceptable, then do it.
For more on this, we're very pleased to be joined now by Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris. Dick, of course, also the co-author of Power Grab, Obama's Dangerous Plan for a One-Party Nation. And Dick Morris joins us tonight via Skype from Connecticut. As always, Dick, we appreciate your time here on Newsmax Prime. And we should note that, for the record, the current speaker, Paul Ryan, attempted to clarify comments he made on CNBC the other day that appeared to have him leaving the door open to accepting the GOP nomination at a brokered or contested convention. Let's look and listen.
Look, I made a decision over a year ago not to run for president. I really believe if you want to be president, you should run for president.
Dick, your reaction to Paul Ryan and his on-again, off-again approach to the presidency?
Well, it goes back further than that. I had lunch with him in Wisconsin, and he told me at great length, this was before he was running for vice president, how he didn't want to run for president. His family, his children, took out photos of them, talked to me about them, and then a year later he accepts the nomination for vice president. So I wouldn't take him at his word on any of that stuff.
So yeah, and then after all, he was the same guy who denied he wanted to be speaker to spend time with his family. We understand, Dick, he's joined with a group of GOP elites huddling behind closed doors in Palm Beach, of all places, trying to unite in their efforts to stop Trump. What do you think is going to come of that?
Well, Ryan is one of the only figures, perhaps the only figure, in the Republican Party that is very acceptable to the establishment and still very acceptable to the Tea Party folks. The evangelicals don't like him a lot, but the Tea Party people do. And therefore, if there were to be a unity candidate for president, it would be him.
I got to stop you right there, because I was supported by the Tea Party in 2010, and I deal with a lot of these Tea Party guys. There is no way they can embrace Paul Ryan because he is pro-amnesty and pro-open border. He may have been able to influence some of the guys in the House Republican caucus in that leadership race, but I'm going to tell you right now, Dick, there is no way the Tea Party supports Paul Ryan for the presidency.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you're correct, JD, that my impression is a little bit dated, because I really haven't been in touch with them about this for a couple of months since Ryan came down on the wrong side of that issue. But let me say this. This convention is not going to be, in my judgment, a brokered convention. Either Trump is going to win it or Cruz is going to win it. And the one who will win it on the first ballot. At the moment, Trump would need to win about 54% of the remaining delegates in order to have a majority. And that's not hard for him to do. Most of the states are not proportional representation. If Trump wins by a small amount, he gets the bulk of the delegates. Take Michigan or Illinois, for example. In Michigan, he gets 36% of the vote. In Illinois, he got 40. and yet he walks away with about 80% of the delegates, the way the rules are stacked in order to create a nominee. The rules are biased against an open convention, and Trump will walk right through that. The only thing that can stop Trump is if Kasich endorses Cruz, and Rubio does too. And Kasich pulls out of the race, as Rubio has, and they join the Cruz campaign. At that point, Cruz has the option of winning about 55 or 56% of the remaining delegates and getting the nomination. It'll be a fair fight. But as things stand now, unless Kasich makes a bold move, Trump has this thing locked up.
Well, and you mentioned Trump's situation. You also lay out that scenario where people could get together, and it's part and parcel of your new column about the time being right for deal making. But before we get there, let's take a look at what the poll numbers are saying, and it seems to bear you out in terms of Trump's support. The latest Rasmussen poll nationally, Donald Trump at 43%, Ted Cruz at 28%, John Kasich at 21%, and on down that list, with only about 3% undecided. In fact, some other numbers from Rasmussen today, Dick, say that over 80% of Republicans actually believe or concede Donald Trump is the nominee. Now, visualizing that is not the same as saying they're going to vote for him as the GOP nominee, but it seems within the Republican universe, a lot of Republicans are associating Trump with the GOP nomination.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think you'd have to be blind not to see that. There are about 900 delegates left to be selected, and Trump has about 700 delegates right now, which puts him about 500 short of the nomination. And out of the remaining 900, he's got a very good shot at picking up 500. Now, on the other hand, Cruz needs 700. And to get 700 out of 900 is a very tall order, particularly when you have Kasich drawing almost as many votes as Cruz is in many of these primaries. So as long as the opposition to Donald remains divided, Trump is going to get this nomination without an open convention. Now, bear in mind that, as you said, we're entering the valley of deal-making. After Tuesday, the 22nd of March, there will be no primary anywhere in the country for 4 weeks, except for Wisconsin on April 5th, right in the middle of it, with only 42 delegates at stake. But from the 22nd to the 19th, you have an interval there where deal-making can take place. Now, once the 19th comes, New York State is votes, and that will solve the nomination one way or the other, pretty much. But not mathematically, but politically. But really, the question now is, what does Kasich do? And there are sort of 3 courses of action open to him. He could continue to run in the hopes of winning and sincerely delude himself that he could and stay in the race and fight on. The second is he could stay in the race, but under a silent, backroom, quiet deal with Donald Trump to help Trump by staying in the race in return for a commitment later to be named vice president. The third thing Kasich could do is approach Cruz, or Cruz approach Kasich, and offer him the vice presidency, and Kasich accepts. Under the rules of the Republican convention, any candidate who gets a delegate in a primary can release that delegate anytime he wants, and the delegate can then vote for any candidate that he wants. So if Rubio endorses Cruz, his 142 delegates would probably go to Cruz. And if Kasich endorsed Cruz, his 169 delegates probably would endorse Cruz. And taken together, plus the delegates Cruz has, Cruz and Trump would have about the same number of delegates, about 700, and an even shot at the nomination. But that requires Rubio, and mainly Kasich, to cooperate.
Yeah, and it's hard to see that happening right now, but it is not impossible. Now, Dick, a minute ago, we talked about New York State and the Republican primary there, and Donald Trump will be more than a favorite son. As a matter of fact, a new poll released today by Emerson College shows the Donald with a huge lead right now for the New York primary. And granted, it's what now, over a month away. Trump at 64%, Cruz at 12%, John Kasich at an anemic 1%. Your reaction to these New York numbers?
It's hard to believe it's that different from the rest of the country. Trump is, of course, better known in New York than any place else, but he's pretty well known all over the place. But in any case, I think it is clear that Donald Trump has a lead in virtually any state at any time, but except for that poll and a few others, not a majority. So that's why the situation is still open. But there's no question that unless Kasich backs Cruz, Trump will definitely be the nominee. And he'll be the nominee with broad and deep support within the Republican Party, although not in the party's establishment.
And let's get back to that establishment situation and the rather stark warning issued earlier today by Newt Gingrich that we heard, saying, look, establishment, if you are trying to fool around with this thing, you might as well join the Lost Republicans for Hillary club. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's right. I think that if there's any attempt to block Trump by any means other than beating him in the primaries, that will cause all hell to break loose. And nobody has the guts to do that. And nobody is going to be able to do that. Remember that in the Republican process, unlike in the Democratic process, the superdelegates are not free to vote for anyone they want. They must reflect the opinion of the state that sent them. And if Trump wins a majority of the states, he's going to have to win a majority of the superdelegates. Now, that's never been tested. It's never been relevant before. But it is the rule in black and white, and I think the delegates would feel constrained to follow it. So I don't take any of those reports very seriously.
Well, let me ask you, we hear from Chairman Reince Priebus that the RNC is happy with anybody. Do you have any evidence that the Republican National Committee is colluding with the so-called establishment? About 30 seconds, Dick.
No, absolutely not. It's not at all like on the Democratic side where Wasserman Schultz, in effect, has endorsed Hillary and did everything she could to get it to Hillary. I think Priebus is genuinely neutral, and I don't think anybody there has the power of the tail to wag this particular dog.
Well, that's good to know. It is worth noting, too, how the Democratic Party seems to be so misnamed, how they seem to run roughshod truly over the democratic process. Dick Morris, we always appreciate your insights and analysis tonight from Connecticut. Thanks very much. You heard what Dick had to say. Agree or disagree? Send me your comments at newsmaxtv.com/comments. Up next, our political panel, Scotty Nell Hughes and Ellis Hennigan, with their respective points of view. Stay tuned.